The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
And good evening, or day, or night, or whenever you choose to listen to this. This is Jason Teasley with my co host Brandon Biskobing, and we are the new Fantasy to the Max fantasy football podcast. On this little episode, we're going to be diving into what is to come here on Fantasy to the Max as far as fantasy football goes. Of course, I have my co host, Trusty Steed, Brandon Biskobing with me. How you doing, man?
How's it going? This should be fun.
Yes, this should be very fun. Let's let our listeners, all four of them, know what to expect here. A couple weeks ago, I was approached to. I had a old sportscast that I'd done with one of my best friends, and it kind of died out. And our trusty CEO approached me with the idea of doing a fantasy football cast because he knows that I'm obsessed with fantasy football. I spend like $1,800 a year and in like 17 leagues. And he said, I've got the perfect opportunity for you. Why don't you get with Brandon, revive the fantasy football cast, and bring us new insight here to the W2M network. And little did I know, not only will you be getting a lot of fantasy updates, but this is a very team-oriented draft. Podcast, correct,
Yeah.
Brandon?
Yeah, it's going to be very Giants heavy on this show, that's for sure.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Both of us
and the Cowboys can go suck it.
Yes, both of us being Giants fans. If you own any player in the NFC East, we will probably be dogging them all season.
Yeah, if you own Ezekiel Elliott, just cut him now.
Yeah, trade him to one of my 17 fantasy leagues. But like I said, I mean, this is just pretty much a pilot episode to let everybody, all of our listeners, know what to expect. So, Brandon, what's your background in fantasy football?
I've been playing fantasy football since, like, I want to say 2005 or 2006, something like that. Kind of just jumping between different leagues. I pretty much exclusively play on Yahoo. And, you know, I play... I forget, I mean, I've played other sports. I don't even know if there's any other version other than head-to-head. Is there even Roto in football?
Yeah, I mean, there's some best ball, some rotos. Pretty much, you'll get, I mean, everything's kind of went to head-to-head, but, you know, you'll find some old-school stragglers out there that do a roto or do a best ball where you just draft your team and forget your lineup. But
Yeah,
I hate doing those.
Oh yeah, I definitely prefer head-to-head. The one thing that I'm the main league that I play in, the one thing that I like doing, just because it makes it so much more realistic and it makes it feel like you really have to get into the game, is I like playing IDP.
Yeah, well, like we spoke off there, I'm not a big fan of IDP, but I do know a lot about it. So I'll be kind of leaning on you during our IDP segments, but you know, I can always study up and be right there with you, take a few notes. But IDP's something that's caught on lately in fantasy football. It adds a new element to the game. Instead of streaming a defense, you actually have to rely on specific players, which could be beneficial to you or it could hurt you.
And it gives a lot more players, opportunities to become bigger stars in the league. Honestly, the one thing that I've loved to do, and this is kind of my dad talking because he was an offensive lineman in high school, is I would love to see them figure out a way to, even if it's just purely on a team level, I would love to see them do an offensive line stat line and like create an offensive line category for fantasy.
Oh, Yeah, I mean, like pancake blocks
Yeah,
or like
exactly,
half a
and like
point or something.
and
Yeah, I mean,
fewest sacks allowed and stuff like that.
yeah. Who knows? I'm pretty sure somebody may listen to this and be like, "Hey, let's start a league up like it." So if they are, hit Brandon up.
Let's
He's
do it.
all in for it. So you said you started about you're a little bit newer to fantasy football than I am. I started in 1998.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My
See,
my
that was
first
even
fantasy
that was
league.
probably when you still had to write it out on paper, wasn't it?
No, it was a Yahoo league
Oh
with a
wow, I
bunch of
didn't know that
yeah.
Yahoo was that long
It
ago.
was a Yahoo rotisserie league. It was it was very interesting because the scoring you really didn't know week to week scoring.
Mm.
Everything was a week behind.
That's funny.
So you're playing. You didn't know your championship outcome because in those days, they were still working the kinks out because yeah, I'm old but not that old where you did paper, but they were still working the kinks out. It's still the internet was still fairly
Yeah,
new, and
exactly.
so you still working the kinks out, and we all uh, we all got together. It was at my community college,
Mm.
and we did a live draft. It was very interesting. Lots of pizza was consumed. No alcohol, unfortunately, because we was on school grounds and they frowned upon that stuff.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it was to see the progression of fantasy football that I have has been pretty cool. And
I
like
mean,
I said,
go ahead.
go ahead.
I mean, even for me, from when I started, it's a pretty big progression. I mean, when I first started back in 2006, no one ever, no one even dreamed of the potential of doing a weekly thing like they do now with DraftKings and FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, when it was still frowned upon. It was still fantasy football was actually considered gambling
Mm-hmm.
when we started. So yeah, so like I said, I've been in the game a little longer than most. 17 leagues. My wife kind of goes crazy about it. Like I said, I've spent $1,800 roughly. That's not counting FanDuel or anything. And the fact that I have her addicted to FanDuel is a whole different experience. So I'm pretty sure that I'll have some good insight weekly because where she plays FanDuel and she's actually kicked my butt all season in a FanDuel league we
Oh,
did with her
damn.
friends. Yeah, she's blasted me all season. And if not for that, God, if only that Minnesota extra miracle in Minneapolis, bad they would have kicked the extra point. I would have took the most money home in this household this year. But with them kick, it knocked me out of about $200 in
Damn.
FanDuel, and she beat me. And she's like she doesn't fail to take the opportunity to tell me about
Oh, I'm
that
sure.
I'm the seasoned vet, and this is her first year playing fantasy football or
Oh,
anything, and
how do you let
she kicked my
yourself get
butt.
beat by a rookie?
Oh well, I overanalyze, and she simplifies everything. She's like, "Well,
Honestly,
I think
unfortunately,
I
especially,
think you'll do good."
I mean, especially when it comes to something that is just as big, if not bigger, than fantasy football, which is coming up very soon, and that would be called bracketology. It seems like the people who know the least honestly do the best because they're just kind of picking on whims, and then you never know what's gonna happen, especially in March Madness.
Oh yeah, March Madness is one of my favorite times of year.
Oh yes.
But
It
like I
also
said,
helps that my alma mater is a purely college basketball school, so.
well, my alma mater was a community college that had 9 people that bought the same shirt and claimed that we as a softball team to Chad Pennington once, and he believed it.
That's
So that's my claim to fame. But what to expect here on Fantasy to the Max is weekly insights. We're going to do a weekly recap of the top performers from each position, our surprise fantasy performer, our look ahead of who we think's got the best matchups, who who we should sit, who you should start. Also, coming up, NFL draft combine starts this week, so we're going to be keeping a nice little check in on that, seeing where all these incoming rookies are going to fall, where we think they're going to fall. We're going to do definitely try to do a pre-draft, but most definitely a post-draft podcast, letting everybody know where all your favorite collegiate players landed and what their fantasy impact will be going forward. Also, we want to get your feedback. If you have any fantasy football questions, hit us up. I mean, I'm pretty sure that we can try to bribe Sean to give us our own Twitter or email or something.
I'm sure we can just I don't think he really cares. I'm sure he'd be fine with us just creating it ourselves and promoting it here.
I don't want to be sleeping with the fishes if I go against Sean.
Oh, I know.
So, but anything you want to add on this pilot episode, man?
Just be on the lookout for all of the plethora of news and, fantasy updates and whatnot. I'm sure we'll probably do a few kind of, nothing too in-depth, but a few injury updates, especially for, the big-time players. And, like Jason said, I'll be talking a little bit about some IDPs to look out for. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
So, with that being said, we're going to wrap this up. Hopefully everybody tunes in going forward, shows us some support here on Fantasy to the Max. With that being said, I'm Jason.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're out.